Hi, and welcome to episode 37 of CultureWatch Radio. I'm Andrew Smith, and with me is Bill Muhlenberg. Bill, this week, many thousands of tradies have been getting plenty of exercise in Melbourne, right outside the CFMEU union office. And union leaders have blamed those nasty right-wingers for this. Yet the reality on the ground is it's the union members who are upset.
Yes, Andrew, it seems to be a bit of a seismic shift in what's going on here. Of course, the labour unions have gone hand in glove with the Labour Party, both usually far to the left, but things have changed now big time. We've got big protests here in Melbourne, not just lately the construction industry, but joining them now, teachers and nurses. Our teacher unions are heartily known for being right-wing neo-Nazi outfits. Same with the construction industry, but that's what Bill Shorten, Dan Andrews, the lamestream media, they're insisting, it's all a bunch of right-wing nutjobs, anti-vaxxers. But interesting, even the Melbourne Age, a very left pro-Andrews newspaper, has said 90% of the protesters are indeed construction workers, union members. Even the Melbourne chief of police said the same. So this is just more spin and pushing agendas by the left. The truth is, many ordinary workers are turning on the big cheese unions and the big cheese Labour Party because they've lost touch with ordinary workers. This is a major turnaround, and no matter how much spin Dan Andrews and others can put on it, what we're witnessing is quite an event.
I want to play for you a clip from a guy by the name of John Wilson, who has spent his entire life and career in the union movement, and he spoke at a freedom rally in Brisbane last Saturday. He was the former president of the Trades Hall Council in Canberra, the former state secretary of the CFMEU, the former senior industrial officer of the Public Service Union, and the former senior industrial officer of the Federated Clerks Union. This man knows his way around the unions and what's going on inside, and this is part of what he had to say.
I want to expose them all. I want to expose them all and take them all down. I want them clean out. I want them out. The lot of them. The lot of them. There's an unholy alliance. There's an unholy alliance in this country between some evil, evil parties, I can tell you. And you can't negotiate with evil. You've got to defeat it. You've got to defeat it. Now is the time. Now is the time to take off these bloody masks and put the full armour of God on. The full armour of God, and go to war. We go to war. We defeat them. They ain't going to give it to us. We're going to take it off them. We're going to take it off them. Put the full armour of God on and take it off them. Thank you.
Now, if you ask me, that's what church services should be like.
Yes. Yeah, pretty hardcore stuff there, that's for sure. And I'm glad somebody's speaking up. If you go on to listen to what he's talking about, he's railing against the Labour Party and the big cheese labour unions that have lost all touch with the common man, the common worker. And bear in mind, the original union movement of long ago, I think in England, first began was actually Christians who were at the forefront of standing up for workers' rights. But again, just like socialism, which claims to speak for the ordinary worker, but instead just has a top class, a top echelon of the privileged elites, and everybody else is oppressed. It's really become that way with today's Labour Party in Australia. Many of the big cheese labour unions in Australia, they're all about feathering their own nests, but the workers themselves, they're still being screwed over. So to see this kind of big revolt from the masses against even what had been their own power base for so long is quite amazing. And again, it gives me hope. We got guys like Dan Andrews in Victoria who've been milking this for all of its worth, and You can only go so far to call us all neo-Nazis when you get more and more people from the labor unions, the construction industry, teachers, nurses, and so on, joining in the protest, saying enough is enough. We're sick of the lockdowns. We're sick of the forced vaccinations, vaccine passports. We're sick of this whole thing. We want to get back to work. We want to get back to life. That's good news to me. Finally, Dan Andrews maybe better stand up and take notice.
And isn't it amazing with the beginnings of the union movement that if you're going to do something that's really going to have an impact on society and change things, the only game in town is to be a Christian?
Well, this has been true not just of supporting workers' rights, but really everything. I mean, look at Western civilization. Grew out of the Judeo-Christian worldview. Everything. Hospitals, prison reform, helping women and children, education, schools, you name your social good, and basically all of them came out of early Christianity. It wasn't pagans going around setting up hospitals, helping the poor and needy, helping get education to the masses. It was really Christianity who did this. The same with those concerned about helping workers and their rights. So when we have really ungodly anti-Christian leaders like Dan Andrews, he's effectively undoing everything that even brought him and others to power in the first place. So, as we say, it's a real turnaround we're witnessing as we speak. And, well, more power to the ordinary worker.
Yeah. And it's fair to say the people are groaning under leaders like Daniel Andrews. In fact, you've just struck up a world record today.
Yes, we have. We had recently the Olympics, gold medals passed out for this or that, sadly, here in Melbourne. We've had a horrific world record just today as we speak. We've got gold here in Melbourne. Gold not for anything great or virtuous, but the longest, harshest, most draconian lockdown anywhere on the planet. I'm a bit empathetic here about all this because I live here in Melbourne. Me and 500 or 5 million poor souls in Melbourne metropolitan region for 235 days all up. In the last year and a half, we've been under this horrific lockdown. We've had probably more people dying from other issues, the shadow pandemic that we talk about, people not being able to go for cancer checkups, for heart attack issues, suicide, mental health problems, the whole mass shadow pandemic. We've probably had much more harm, kids away from friends, from schools. This is what the lockdowns are doing. Study after study shows they're not helping. They're actually counterproductive. So again, I repeat, world record. Thanks, Dan Andrews. 235 days and still no end in sight. Just a few days ago, he came out and said, well, maybe end of October we can throw a few more crumbs of freedom your way. But to get free altogether of all these horrific restrictions, I'm betting, well, easily sometime next year at best, if we even get back to that. So this is a dubious world record. It's one that I and 5 million others have suffered under greatly. So no wonder they're taking to the streets. People have had enough. They cannot go on like this forever. It's unsustainable. Dan Andrews and his elites can live in their fancy beachside mansions. They can go on like this forever with their taxpayer funding, but ordinary workers, ordinary people, they have to get out, they have to feed their families, they have to have jobs. That's not happening. So it's a horribly dubious record we've broken today, and it's going to get worse every passing day.
So, Bill, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And hopefully it's not a train. Which is the correct way out of this?
Well, the correct way would be to get rid of leaders like Palaszczuk, Dan Andrews, McGowan in WA. They are the ones who are causing all this, either with the lockdowns, the border closures. And if we see these kind of big marches in the streets by ordinary Joes, right, workers, teachers, nurses, and others, that may be the hope we need. Sadly, ScoMo has not been putting on pressure. They agree to stuff in national cabinet, and then the states go off and do their thing anyways. We basically have a collection of fiefdoms in Australia, not one nation, but a bunch of power-hungry premiers, health elites, pushing their agendas, ignoring the federal government. It looks like we're not going to get help there, but is often the case from the ground up, a grassroots rebellion against this madness, these power-drunk rulers who do not care, who have no compassion, who are not listening to the ordinary Australians. So that, well, for a Christian as well, that and a lot of prayer, right? We even heard this fiery speaker earlier, the full armor of God and all of that. So if Christians get their act together, start praying for a change and start speaking out, that along with people power, well, maybe we'll see finally light at the end of the tunnel.
Pray and act. And come along to the Culture Watch website. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Culture Watch Radio. Subscribe where you listen at SoundCloud, YouTube and Rumble so you don't miss a thing.